Well, hello to everyone, and I'm super, super excited about this amazing interview that is about to take place. But first of all, let me introduce Dr. Stan Harris, a.k.a. Dr. Breakthrough, who is also a published author, life coach, evangelist, martial artist, mentor, father, husband, and so much more. He has traveled to all 50 states and 28 countries, hosted conferences, conventions, and I am super excited that he took time out of his busy schedule to join us with this powerful interview. Dr. Harris, take it away.
Well, baby girl, thank you very much. I wouldn't have missed this for anything in the world. And by the way, I call my wife Nadia my ABCD. That stands for Adorable Brown Caramel Delight. And again, I'm just so pleased to be part of this project with all the powerful women, again, positioned to prosper, this new powerful book, Positioned to Prosper, 8 gold nuggets to ensure your prosperity for women by women. So we're going to talk right now to Prophetess Joyce Stewart, and we're going to talk about, because her chapter, by the way, oh my goodness, so powerful. I really enjoyed reading her chapter, and you are going to get some nuggets. You might want to get something to write with, because note takers are money makers. But we're going to talk about gifts and talents. See, this book is not just about, people think about prosperity. Normally they just think about the finances, but it's so much more than that. And we're going to talk about prospering because of your gifts and talents. So, Prophetess Joyce Stewart, thank you for joining us for this short interview. We're looking forward to what you have to share.
Well, thank you for having me, Dr. Harris. I just really appreciate you both, you all, for including me in this great collaboration. It is certainly an honor to be a part of it.
Well, we're so glad to have you. So I want to jump into this because, again, I want our readers, we'll keep this concise. Somebody said the greatest speakers are the ones that make the fewest words go the furthest. And my wife reminds me when I start preaching extra long just to shorten it down a little bit. But so we're going to keep these testimonies and these trainings very short and to the point. But, I was reading in your chapter, and one of the things that really stuck out is you talked about the fact that it was only when someone took an interest in you that your buried talents began to become unearthed. I want you to talk about that for a minute. That just captivated. That was powerful.
Yes, because I think that people really have to understand the power of the Word of God. Is that the thing is that when the Bible talks about training up a child in which way they should go, and this is not an attack on anyone's parents or, your culture. But a lot of times, we as parents don't really see what's in our children. And so it's hard to train them in the way they should go if you don't know what's in them. So this woman was my mentor, had the ability to see with the eyes of the seer and the prophet, and she began to speak things over my life. And as I began to serve her, which is a key word here, is that once you start serving and doing things for the right motive, that God begins to cause the seed that you're sowing in their life to cause a harvest to come into your world. And so I think that we have to look at, when you talk about training a child up in the way they go, it's not just training someone in a churchly manner. It is deciphering why they were created.
So in other words, literally, like in the Hebrew, that's trained them according to their bent. So you're saying a parent would be wise to discern and see the bent and then train them in the ways of the Lord based on their bent, their talent, their gifts. That's absolutely powerful. And you're saying that it was some mentors having someone, and I like the way you put that. You said someone who took an interest in you, and it helped you to unearth those buried talents. One time, Nadia and I were driving on the highway, and I said, "Baby, God just gave me a word." She said, "What is it?" I said, "You're God's treasure chest." She said, "Ooh, that sounds good, but what does that mean?" And I said, "Well, that means He's put within you gifts, talents, and abilities. As a matter of fact, He put the greatest thing. He put Him, not just His Spirit, but Himself." And I said, and so as a treasure chest, you don't want to close it. You want to open it up and allow it. And one of the things I love about your chapter is as people read this, it's going to help them to literally understand they are a treasure chest, and they need to allow their treasure chest, those gifts and talents that God's given them, they need to allow that to shine. And so you mentioned the power of mentors. Do you want to discuss very briefly just how powerful that is? Because we're living in a day and age where a lot of people have lost that whole thing of mentorship. but you're really bringing that to pass, and you talked about that. So would you discuss that, please?
Sure, absolutely. And I'm a mentor as well. And I think that it is a lost treasure, as you mentioned before. It's Jesus ruled by mentorship. He discipled. That's really another word for saying mentorship is discipleship. Is that he's taking a personal interest. And what I like about what Jesus did is he didn't take a whole group of people. He only used the number 12, which is the order, the government of God, to establish something, to do a fundamental thing. And it was really meant to be something, I believe, that the church has to grab onto. They have to learn that this discipleship/mentorship is the process by which you take one or two or whatever amount of people that you have the grace to be able to impact, is that you begin to look at these people and say, I can see this in you, I can see the potential, and now I'm going to begin to pour myself into you until I manifest and begin to activate the gifts and the talents that lie there. And without that personal touch, a lot of times you'll have people going to churches or going, and not even just to church, just in the world system, because we're to impact the world as well, is that they're walking around aimlessly getting jobs without ever understanding who they really are through their gift or their talent.
Wow, that's powerful. As a matter of fact, Prophetess, I was reading where you said, and I want to ask you, if you don't mind, how old you were at this time, but you said you were discovering who you were for the very first time when you started getting comfortable with your newfound talent. About what age were you at that time?
I'm going to say I was probably about 30-ish. I was definitely in my 30s. It was, where
Wow.
I thought really I was at my midlife, but that's still fairly young. When you start getting past 30, you start realizing it's really not that old.
Exactly. By the way, once you hit 40, by the way, I tell people you're no longer old. You always use 40 years. Whatever comes after that is wise. So,
yes.
So it's wise. So in other words, there are people. Then if you were in your 30s and now you're being used to actually write a part of a book that's helping people discover this, that means there's probably people who are in their 50s and 60s who have yet discovered, and some who have gone to their grave having never discovered this. So in other words, what you're saying is they really were kind of existing instead of living because they didn't tap into their gifts, their talents, their abilities, and that's part of prosperity is what you're saying. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I think that somewhere along the line, even through media, that we've taken this kind of mentality of the survivorship thing where you're just living, you're just existing, and that song. And what we start singing is we take on the whole persona of things that we see on TV. Media is a great influence. It impacts our mind and our soul, and it really rests in us, and it begins to activate itself out. And so if we're listening to music and we're proclaiming or making a declaration of I am a survivor, now you're limiting yourself and you're not a conqueror. You're not someone who is progressive, because now you're stating and you're making that declarations are not just made by what you're quoting, but it's also the song that you sing. So maybe you need to sing a different song in order to get on the right path. To know the right way, you really have to understand how the power of speech is a part of your daily life.
Awesome. That's powerful. As a matter of fact, you talked about in your book, in your chapter there, that you only discovered writing when you had moments of being alone, and you really recommend meditating for those who may not even know any of their talents. Why don't you discuss that?
Meditation is really kind of quieting yourself, and I'm not talking about a new age type of meditation where you're putting pointless thoughts in your mind, but I'm talking about really taking something. It could be anything, a quote, a scripture I recommend, and saying to yourself, God, who am I? Why am I here? And beginning to examine yourself. Once you start examining your life, you really get a better reflection of where you want to go. You can start meditating on some of the things that that's positive. It talks about that in the book of Philippians, which it says meditating on those things that are positive, basically. That's what the whole scripture is talking about. Meditating on something positive. If you know that you are good at painting, don't try to be a lawyer. Don't try to be something based on what you thought what the economic standpoint of that is going to give you, what you think that is going to accomplish. And don't try to do something because it sounds good. It looks good to others. Oh, yeah, I want to be that because I see that other person is doing that. You have to really focus on, go inside of yourself. What have you always loved to do? What is your passion? And that really, when you start to calculate that and meditate upon that, you will come to know who or what those talents and gifts are.
Wow. I love it when you said that God never created anything or anyone without gifts or talents. So to the most insignificant feeling person, would you say that part of their insignificance is perhaps they've not yet discovered their gifts, their talents? And I love the way you talked about in your book about how, like in Ephesians 2:10, but before God even created us, he created good works, and we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, which he did for before ordained. So he created some works for us to do, but gave us gifts that would allow us to fulfill that. And I think one of the reasons why you're so happy in life and why you have such great things going is because you've learned to tap into that. And now you're mentoring other people to do the same, and you're actually mentoring people through this chapter. And I love the way you put it, chapter 5, which is a symbol number of grace, so that grace kicks in. So discuss that.
The number 5, you mean, or the grace? I'm sorry.
Well, no, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned that grace kicks in, but the whole thing, as far as our gifts and talents, are the things that would empower us to be able to do these works that God had for us. But all of this is by grace. So in other words, it's not our, you're mentioning meditating. We're meditating so we can sense and hear the voice of God, so that we can discern, and also through mentors like what you are now. But we can discern what those gifts and talents are, because those gifts and talents are the things that God put in us that be able to help us to fulfill those good deeds that he prepared for us before we ever got here. But again, all of this is by grace. It's a gift from God. But a gift is not used. A gift is not discovered. A gift is not revealed. And so I love, again, the fact that your chapter is all about helping people to reveal and find that. And again, but it's all by grace, so it's not by our human effort. It's by grace. So, but anyway, but just discuss that about the fact that, like you mentioned, we got the gifts. Before we were ever born, he has good works for us, but we can't do the works until we recognize and uncover our gifts.
Absolutely, and that's the tragedy, I think, of a waste of time. We have to be committed to not just exist. We have to be committed enough to say, you know what, I must be important because God put me here. I must have some value. You know what, and I say this, and I'm not saying that men aren't, because what we're focusing right now on the Women to Women Prosper book. But, I used to talk to women and women who really don't have the greatest self-esteem. But I said, listen, the Lord called us females for a reason. The word fee comes before male. And so that's a price right there on your name. Before you even get anywhere in life, you have already been labeled a female. God says, I created male and female and male, I created them. So he's saying, I put something on you that must cost something, and that a man must sacrifice to even get you. So if you understand that and you begin to search and find out those gifts and talents, the Bible says that your gift shall bring you before great men. That great man or that great people or that great nation is only going to be revealed, or you're only going to get to those paths when you discover the gift. Now, the gift is available to you, but it's going to take some time to unearth it. It's going to take some meditation. It's going to take some prayer. It's going to take other things that people will begin to see, and it can manifest itself. So the grace is the part that we really aren't working. We couldn't earn the gift. The gift is given freely. Right? So if we know that the gift is given freely, all we have to do is discover it. So basically, it's a self-discovery situation. So in honor of all that, God is depending on us to discover that. He's depending on that. That's why there's a fivefold ministry, because that's even the grace of God, that even if you can't discover it, someone else will discover it, whether it's a prophet, an apostle, an evangelist, a teacher, or a pastor. Those are the 5 other grace. Okay, those are graces there for you, because they're there to edify the body. Howbeit, it's there to edify the body, because now you will be under someone who at some point should help you to discover this gift, if in fact you're not able
Wow. Well, Prophetess, we've covered a lot of ground in a short time. Is there anything else you'd like to add, maybe that you just feel in your spirit that our listeners need to hear? Because, again, your chapter is so important, folks. You got to get this book. And Chapter 5, Gifts and Talents, is going to really help you to do that. So you won't just be a person that's just existing. You can actually be thriving and creating and living the life that God designed you to. So what else would you like to leave with our listeners?
What I'd like to leave with the listeners is the fact that there are other women in this book that have so many treasures themselves. There are 9 women that are focusing on different aspects of prosperity, and that we really have to get away from looking at prosperity from just a financial point of view. Because the thing is that anyone can get a drop of money, let's just say through lotto or any other means, inheritance, and lose that money or lose it because of the mindset. And prosperity really starts there. It really starts in your mind. You have to believe something. You have to hold on to it. The Bible talks about, I wish above all things that you would be prosperous, even in thy soul. So really what God is saying is that your soul must prosper, because the soul is the point of contact for you to even recognize that you have something. It has to be your intellect. It has to be your mental strength, your desire, and your spirit to be able to say, I am someone, and I'm going to discover this thing before I leave this planet. I'm going to trust that what the gift is that God has given me. I don't have to compare it to anyone. I don't have to measure up to anyone else's standard, but I do have an ownership and a privilege to be able to say, yes, I can do this. And I think that's what I would like readers to recognize, is that they all have something in life that is so amazing and fabulous that they should pursue their gift and their talent.
Wow. Well, ladies, you've just heard, and I'm sure there'll be some gentlemen getting hold of this as well, because I sure appreciate the book and the things that I've learned. But again, she's Prophetess Joyce Stewart. She's known for her poetry, her plays, her talk show host, YouTube channel, Brides and Wives, the founder of The Love Business. She's been a mentor, a wise counsel to men and women needing a helping hand in the area of relationships, and especially in the love category. There's no wonder that she delves effortlessly into her edgy Christian love stories, which have been called captivating, realistic, teachable tools to use in everyday dating situations. She uses her sense of humor to encourage others to consider their choices and consequences of waiting for the right kind of love. And as you've just heard some of her wisdom or bits of wisdom, you have got to connect with her. So again, get the book, and you'll see at the end of her chapter number 5, how you can contact her and connect with her. And Prophetess Joyce, we want to thank you again for your contribution to this powerful, powerful Position to Prosper, 8 gold nuggets to ensure your prosperity for women, by women, helping them in the area of gifts and talents.
Well, thank you much. God bless you.